Hey guys, J. Edgar here. I wanted to talk about something it's been kind of on my mind for a little while. I made my video about Ron DeSantis and why I wouldn't vote for him. That had to be all the way back in September. In fact, I know it was in September because it was while I took my month off of streaming to try to recollect my life and figure out where I was going to go next in life. Because working 60 hours a week plus streaming 10 hours a week plus the prep to stream 10 hours a week wasn't working for me at the time. And I know I did my Ron DeSantis video during that. But there's been something else that's been bothering me about the Ron DeSantis campaign, and I wasn't quite able to put my finger on it for quite a while, and I think I figured it out. Now, I have on and off been engaging with DeSantis fans over on X. Don't know a lot of them where I live now. I am pretty much in Trump country when it comes to the Republican side of things. So I don't know a lot of them there, and, when I spend the time actually in the inner city, I'm around a lot more city folk who are, oh, give me that Dem and every Republican is evil. But one of the things I've noticed, and there are a couple things that are going on with this, but one's going to play off the other. I was going to make this video a couple weeks ago, but I'm actually glad that I waited because I did need to sit down and make this connection when it comes to the primaries. All the way back in 2021, when a lot of the Republican Party came to the acceptance of, well, I still don't know where the rules are and what we can say on YouTube about what happened in the 2020 election. And I also know that when it becomes convenient for YouTube, they are going to come back and retroactively discipline us who were saying it throughout the entirety of the time that it was okay by YouTube terms of service. It's because that's what YouTube does. But one of the things that I knew is that at that time, if the next election would have been held in, let's say on my birthday, April 30th of 2021, the Donald would have coasted to the Republican nomination. And we were starting to get to the point in inflation where he might have actually coasted to not re-election, but another election bid in 2021. Most of the Republican Party had already warned everybody else about how dangerous Biden was, and there was a little bit of recency bias at the time. Everybody remembered who had voted for Donald the second time rather, how much better their lives were. Oddly enough, this was about the time that I decided that I couldn't go and vote for him a second time, and I'm going to make a full disclosure in just a second, but let me finish off the point that I'm making here. The entire Republican Party was still unified behind Donald Trump, and Biden's approval was already starting to slip at that point. I don't know that he was underwater yet at that point, but it was already starting to slip. The veneer of him not being Donald Trump was already starting to wear off, and things were actually starting to get harder at that point. And yes, a lot of people had already remembered how much better their lives were through that fateful 4-year term. Now, I'm going to give full disclosure in what I'm about to say here. I still am at this point not intending to vote for any presidential candidate who currently has their hat forward, and I have my reasons not to do so. As we saw on Wednesday night, when we watched the debate, how much disdain I had for everybody on that stage already. Ron DeSantis, who you may know already from watching my video. I call him Governor Executive Order for a reason. And Razorfist actually put out a video. This is Thursday that I'm recording this. Razorfist put out a video on Thursday also pointing out the fact that, yes, Ron DeSantis, the Keep Florida Open King, was one of the first ones to jump down there and lock down. His fans would like you to forget about that, but I saw the checkpoint on 95 firsthand. If you know Stephen Ignoramus, he can concur because we both drove by it at 90 miles an hour in a white Ford pickup and watched it being dismantled in the middle of a pouring fucking rainstorm. That wasn't at the point where he was playing guitar yet. He didn't start doing that until the road back home. But we watched that checkpoint getting dismantled. Yes, again, it was very, very early on in the COVID, and I will give Ron DeSantis credit where due. He was one of the first ones to come back out and unlock his state, but he had one of the hardest lockdown stances. Not only was he the first one to jump in and say, yes, we have to lock down and we might have to do a vaccine passport because we want to do everything we can to open Florida up, but he had a literal checkpoint coming into Florida on I-95 in the way station. But I digress. That's not actually where I'm going with this. Full disclosure, I am starting to warm to Trump a little bit. Just a little bit. Part of it is, yes, remembering how much better my life was under that, but, I still remember what the spending was and how many times I had to say, you stupid fucker, on videos like this, on a live stream, and on a host of other media platforms that I was on when we talked about things that he was doing in his policy. And it was mostly, for me, the spending. There were some other issues that I had with him, but it was mostly the spending. Dr. Carson, if he does pick Dr. Carson, he moves into a maybe for me. Just a maybe, a possibility. I'll still remember the spending, but I do like Dr. Carson. Dr. Carson was my second choice in 2016. And no, Donald was not the first. Fiorina actually was the first in 2016. But that's full disclosure. I know a lot of the DeSantis fans who catch this video and want to come out and try to dox me at this point are going to say, he's a MAGA fan because he might actually think about considering voting for Donald Trump. Trust me, I remember the spending. I don't want to do this. But the reason I'm making this video is, it's a couple things. I've noticed a lot of the fighting on X. And it seems to be coming from DeSantis people who want to come out and typically engage in a comment thread that they weren't initially tagged in. They go back down, they read the responses, they see somebody detract on DeSantis, and the first thing they want to do is say, you're a Trump-tard! Look at you! You're a toothless, suspenders-wearing hick! I hate you and I hate your candidate! And your kind is dying and we need a real conservative leader. And I've endured that numerous times in numerous tweet threads throughout, or X threads, I should say, as we go. One thing I started to notice through this was the fact that a lot of them are coming from, a lot of the same kind of people that a lot of us engaged and fought with during the Trump years on the same platform. No name, or an anonymous name, no face. It's usually not a Twitter egg, but it's an image of something. Typically, when it's a DeSantis Stan account, it's not an anime character, but there's some kind of cartoon character that's plastered in there. The person's not giving his name. The account was typically made early 2022, late 2021. It's typically not before that, and a lot of them are coming back and saying, I got banned under the Trump years, and now I'm back because of Elon. Which, okay, maybe that does track. But they're always anonymous people. Now, I believe some DeSantis people out there. In fact, there are a couple of them that I called friends at one point. I think some of us may be fractured at this point because of my views on the persecution of Donald Trump and how I don't think the state should be using their broad arms to persecute him the way they are. Some of them used to be libertarian, which really surprises me. But I do know that they are who they say they are, and I've known them in prior life. Or one of the more famous ones, the attractive blonde female that many of us may have interacted with, who full out shows her face, shows her body, shows her full name. I believe that she is actually in the DeSantis camp. I disagree with her, obviously, but I believe that she's actually in there. But she's one of the reasons I bring that one up is she's not going out of her way to insult people, call them stupid, call them moronic. And there were other ones out there too, like Bill Mitchell, who was basically a liberal who used liberal tactics when it was fun, but now he's starting to look at the writing on the walls and saying, hey, no, I'm going to be the great unifier here. Okay, getting off track here. Reason I'm bringing this up is, and going back to 2021, when it looked like the Big Don was going to go and coast to at least re-nomination, if not re-election, coming up for 2024 is a lot of commentators, myself included, pointed out the fact that Dems don't want a guarantee. They don't want everybody to be coalesced behind one particular candidate, even if it is, and a lot of them came out and said, we do want Trump to be the candidate because we think we can beat him through lawfare, through etc., through bringing up his record, etc. But they still wanted a messy primary. They still wanted people to be at each other's throats. You could see the writing on the wall. You could see a lot of them still holding their liberal biases, saying, hey, why would you ever want to vote for a con man who's been married, who has 3 kids, 5 kids, or how many kids he has by however many women he has, failed business, laughs at Christians, hold the Bible upside down, and all the typical kind of conservative stuff that was out there. And the reason I bring that up is because I see these anonymous ones, the no-name accounts, who bring up the same thing. Oh, well, we don't want him to be the standard bearer. We want DeSantis, because DeSantis is a family man, and Donald Trump has been married 3 times, and he's cheated on all of his wives, and he did the pussy tape, and look at all these indictments. And you notice, too, that the liberals like to come out and say, hey, why would you ever want to vote for him? Look at all these indictments that we have going and piling up. You stupid rubes and hicks. And I started to notice a pattern between the sudden onslaught of no-name and new account DeSantis accounts, and the rhetoric they were using, and the liberal rhetoric that was being used from, let's say March of 2020 on until about April of 2021. I noticed that the wording is almost exactly the same. It's almost like they're doing copy and pastes from some of these old liberal accounts. Except now they're saying 91 indictments, this felony, that felony, this felony, that felony, instead of impeached, twice impeached. Like they did the first time. And it tracks to me. I mean, if my theory is correct, and this is just a theory, of course, all I can say is that I can see the patterns here. I don't have definitive proof of a bunch of people sitting around with 55 monitors around them, going from keyboard to keyboard and writing tweet and writing a tweet and writing a tweet, all of them coming out here. But it, again, patterns, I see patterns in the world. Now, I wanted to tie this a little bit to the primaries, too. Hear me out on this one. We are looking at a point in polling where Big Don is up by 50 points coming into Iowa. And I've even said, just generically, I don't think he goes into Iowa 50 points ahead. I don't think he comes out of Iowa 50 points ahead. I think he goes in on the polling 50 points ahead, but I don't think he comes out with the caucusing on paper 50 points ahead. I think it's going to be actually in single digits, if everything goes generically. But it started to occur to me that Iowa's caucus for Democrats is, I think, 3 months after the Republican caucus. And they're actually doing a regular primary for Iowa. They're not doing, if they even have a primary at all, they're not doing a caucus system where all the candidates get out and shake the hands and kiss the babies and see who gets the most support throughout the thing. They're actually doing a go out to the polls, do your regular vote, your regular primary, like most of you in the United States go to. And they're doing it, they changed the order of it a few months ago. And it got me to thinking. These people are willing to go out there and sing DeSantis' praises, not because they necessarily want to see DeSantis be the president, but they want to see some divide in the Republican Party, some schismatic nature, some anger. And nobody that they're going to vote for is going to be on the ballot at all in Iowa. What's to stop them from going to the caucus and coming in and pretending to be? And it doesn't even have to be DeSantis. It can be a Haley fan. It can be... Okay, yeah, I can't picture any of them being Ramaswamy fans either, but they can come out here as full, lifelong, pro-choice, murder the baby in the womb, free college, free everything, liberals, but still go in because there's nothing to stop them and go pretend to be conservative to go pull that lever. Go listen to that candidate, however much they disagree with them, and caucus for the candidates to try to split up and try to even out some of that divide that's in the polling. And then, it got me to thinking too, and I started to think about other things that Democrats are doing coming in for their primary, because they do technically have a primary going on right now. And thinking how many other states they can go back and pull this off in. Now, hear me out. I can't sit here and say I can't see a world where a Democrat would go and grab a Republican ballot because there's nothing for them to lose and vote for whichever candidate is down to try to shake up some of the numbers. I can't say that they won't do that because I've done that. I did that in 2020, actually, in the Wisconsin primary. Because the Donald was pretty much running unopposed, and I did hold my nose and vote for him in 2020. I was not happy about it, and those of you who watched the video that I put out in October of 2020 know that in the middle of the summer, I was not planning on voting for anybody. But Big Don was running unopposed, so I grabbed a Democrat ballot, and I filled in that bubble for Bernie Sanders to try to throw Comrade Biden off the trail, or at least throw some of his statistics in the trash. Now, I don't know that a lot of these people in closed primary states would go out and pull the ballot, because they'd have to go back and re-register as a Republican in order to get the Republican ballot. But there are a bunch of states in this country, I don't have the statistics in front of me, that are open primary. And if Biden is running unopposed, then why would you pull the Democrat ballot and vote for Biden? Because you know he's going to win. When you can go out and grab the Republican ballot, mark down DeSantis, and throw some chaos into the race coming up here. I think that some of them are going to do this in closed primary states too, and even there was one of the things that I was thinking about while I was trying to come up with a script for this video, is the fact that, there are a lot of these people out there who are calling anybody who would dare run against Comrade Biden a Nazi, a fascist, a Trump enabler. Because if there are more than one people on the ballot, when they go back to go make their selection, then they've got to go pull that Democrat ballot and mark down Biden, lest he get trounced in the primaries if there's somebody running against him. Not that I think that's going to happen. I think that there is going to be enough voter support for him somehow. At least on the Democrat side. I think they've chased enough people out of there that I do think that he is going to clinch that nomination with ease. What's going to happen? I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot messier than the MAGA people think that it's going to be. I don't think it's going to go in DeSantis' direction. I don't know. I guess it would depend on how many people decide to go hold their nose and try to shake up the system in Iowa to see what happens with the DeSantis people, the actual true DeSantis people, and what they do with that information, what they do trying to carry forward in other states. And again, I don't think that these people really want to see DeSantis be the nominee, the president, whatever. I think they want to see the chaos, and I think they want to see the fight and the feud. It goes back into something that I made a video on earlier and that I've said on X numerous times. You people in the DeSantis camp and you people in the Trump camp need to figure out how to get along at some point here, because if you don't, then say the Donald gets nominated and all these DeSantis people who were insulted by the Donald people just say, fuck that, I'm going to stay home on election day. I can't vote for Trump. Indictment this, indictment that, plus all of his supporters insulted me. Or say Ron gets nominated and all the Trump people come back out and say, I can't do that. All these DeSantis people did was call me a retard and call me a toothless hick and tell me that I was dumb and that I was a cult leader. I can't go back and vote for this guy. I'm not closing on that, by the way, before we head out of here for this. I also want to point one thing out from the debate on Wednesday night. It was something that I said during one of the breaks. And that is the fact that in spite of the feuds that Donald fans and Ron fans are having online right now, Ron himself, and I can't speak for Trump because he's a bit of a loose cannon and I don't really feel the need to sit back and watch a rally every time he goes back and does a rally. But Ron knows that he can't run back out and insult Don, because he loses any opportunity he has for a future political office. Now, he can't be governor again after this term unless he takes a 4-year break. I did some research on that. I found that out last night. But he has no political career in his future at all if he sits and insults the orange deity. And he knows that. That's why when the pointed question, and Chris Christie was right to point this out, by the way, when the pointed question was asked of him if he thought that Donald was unfit to be president, he could not say yes. He couldn't say no either. Because if he says no, that Donald Trump is fit to be president, he will have hordes of his own supporters sitting here, and many of them, I think, would leave and go for Haley at that point. But if he says yes, for any office that he does hold beyond the presidency and the gubernatorial race in Florida, he's lost the MAGA vote, and I don't think he can pull it over the finish line without that. So that's what I see with that. I don't know how much actual support there is for DeSantis, but I think that this primary is going to be messy. I don't think we've seen everything yet. I think there are going to be some stops out here, and I mean, above all else, I think it's going to be entertaining. So grab some popcorn. Do make sure you get your opinions out there and support who it is that you want to support. But do remember, you need the voters of the other camp to come and support your guy too. So make your case, but maybe turn the insults down a little bit. And that's what I'm going to leave on. Take care. Have a good night.